Colbert is practically daring CBS to shut him down early. Over the weekend, it sunk in that they're killing off our show, Stephen Colbert reflected at the top of The Late Show on Monday, following a tempest of outrage over CBS's suspiciously timed cancellation of the program that had only gained strength over the weekend. But they made one mistake. They left me alive. The audience responded with chants of "Stephen, Stephen," which in retrospect was the first clue that the host's taunt was not entirely a joke. Since then, Colbert has been ripping into Donald Trump with renewed relish, often while also flaying CBS and its parent company Paramount. By doubling down on attacking his most powerful enemy, at a time when network execs are facing such intense scrutiny for what many believe was a politically motivated firing, he isn't just making the most of the 10 months he has left, he's essentially daring his bosses to kill the show sooner. Think an expensive contract would be enough to keep a host judged to be a liability on the air? Kindly recall NBC's Megyn Kelly debacle of 2018. If they take the bait, Colbert will have his most damning evidence yet that what they called a purely financial decision was, at least in part, political. For those who don't keep daily tabs on late-night talk shows, which, let's be honest, is the vast majority of us these days, it's worth reviewing this week's Late Show highlights. On Monday, Colbert devoted his whole monologue to Donald Trump. First, he addressed his cancellation. Cancel culture has gone too far, expressing relief that he can finally speak unvarnished truth to power and say what he really thinks about Donald Trump, starting right now. Then feinting in the direction of understatement. I don't care for him. Doesn't seem to have, the skill set to be president. Just not a good fit, you know? He moved on to reports claiming that his show, despite winning its broadcast time slot, was losing some $40 million a year. I could see us losing $24 million, but where could Paramount have possibly spent the other 16? Oh yeah. In an instantly viral soundbite, Colbert responded to Trump's social media posts, calling him talentless and gloating over his show's demise by asking, would an untalented man be able to compose the following satirical witticism? Go fuck yourself. Then he prefaced a riff on the Wall Street Journal's Epstein birthday letter bombshell with, the president was buddies with a pedophile. It's a great day to be me, because I am not Donald Trump, Colbert greeted the audience on Tuesday, before discussing reports that FBI agents were ordered to scour the Epstein files for Trump mentions. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't hide who Dumpty humped with his friend, he quipped. Also, it's not a great look when you fly on the pedophile's plane enough times to earn diamond pervert status. In response to Trump's apparent fixation on arresting Barack Obama, Colbert wondered out loud, what the F is wrong with this guy? Finally, he seemed to pivot away from the president with a bit about soaring beef prices. But then he brought Trump into that story as well, suggesting that his tariffs were partly to blame. Wednesday's Late Show opened by poking fun at Coca-Cola's plans to oblige POTUS by manufacturing cane sugar sweetened soda in the U.S., with a faux advertisement for cocaine-enhanced Don Jr. Coke. A monologue that kicked off with a few jokes about the impending heat wave soon segued to a familiar subject. One person who's already sweating is Donald Trump, Colbert said before pausing to let the audience boo. To no one's surprise, the host made a meal out of the news that the Justice Department had, in May, informed the president that his name was in the Epstein files. He's in the file. He's in the file, Colbert chanted, rubbing his hands together and approaching the camera with a gleeful grin. You know how they say there's no such thing as bad publicity? They're not talking about this. He went on to show a greatest hits collection of Trump Epstein photos, casually drop micropenis DJT into a list of fictional Trump nicknames, and roast Trump for the mathematical impossibility of his promised prescription drug price reductions. And then he circled back to how Trump is making my network crawl, citing the president's claim that he would secure another $20 million in free airtime from CBS. By bending the knee, they lost $40 million this year. They better watch out. They might get canceled for purely financial reasons. Colbert ended his show's 4-day week on Thursday with more than 8 minutes on the Epstein saga. First, there was a cold open skit using a montage of Three Stooges eye-poking clips to mock Attorney General Pam Bondi for citing a torn cornea as her reason for missing an awkwardly timed speaking engagement at a summit on sex trafficking. In his monologue, Colbert tore through the latest Trump Epstein headlines, like, what are you going to tell me next, that the Pope is in the Catholic files? That a bear is on the cover of this month's Modern Woods Pooper? From Epstein's evasiveness on Trump in a 2010 deposition, to Mark Epstein's claim that his brother dumped Trump after deciding he was a crook, to the Ghislaine Maxwell of it all. When he finally moved off the topic, it was for a bit lampooning the president's recent statements on artificial intelligence that mostly seemed to be an excuse to direct viewers to Wednesday's already notorious season premiere of South Park, which is also a Paramount property, which included an extremely NSFW parody PSA starring an uncanny AI-generated Trump. I'd call this a mic drop, but I have a feeling Colbert will have plenty more to say come Monday. When you consider how litigious Trump has been with regard to practices that legal precedent supports as protected speech, of which satire and commentary are two, Colbert's stand is risky. But whether you think his response to The Late Show's cancellation is brave or foolish, you can't deny that he's playing his cards perfectly against Paramount and CBS. If the powers that be pull him off the air before May 2026, he'll have all but proven that their decision to dump him was about more than the cost of making his show. And if they resign themselves to letting him say whatever he wants for the next 10 months, well, then he'll get to say whatever he wants for the next 10 months. I can't imagine either option making his bosses jump for joy.